Good evening and welcome to the channel. Tonight, we are covering a day in this war that crossed a line that no one expected to see crossed. And I want you to understand right from the beginning exactly what I mean by that. Today, a senior Iranian government official issued a direct, public, personal threat against the life of the President of the United States. Not a vague warning, not a diplomatic protest, a direct named personal warning that Donald Trump himself could be eliminated. That statement alone would be enough to define any single day in modern history. But it did not happen in isolation. It happened on the same day that the Pentagon announced this would be the most intense day of American bombing inside Iran since this war began 11 days ago. It happened on the same day that Iran's Revolutionary Guard launched missiles carrying warheads weighing more than 1 ton each, the heaviest and most destructive projectiles fired in this entire conflict. And it happened on the same day that Iran's Revolutionary Guard told the world that not a single liter of oil will leave the Middle East until American and Israeli attacks stop. Everything that happened today pushes this war closer to a threshold that, once crossed, cannot be uncrossed. So let us go through every single development, piece by piece, because each one matters, and together they paint a picture that is more alarming than anything we have seen since February 28th. Let us start with the statement that has shocked every government, every intelligence agency, and every newsroom on the planet. Ali Larijani, the Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, one of the most powerful and senior figures in the Iranian government, posted a direct response to Donald Trump on social media today. Trump had threatened the night before that if Iran continues to block oil shipments through the Strait of Hormuz, the United States would hit Iran 20 times harder than it has already been hit and would rain death, fire, and fury upon the country. Larijani's response was not diplomatic. It was not measured. It was a direct personal warning. He wrote, and I want you to hear every word of this: "The sacrificial nation of Iran does not fear your empty threats. Even those bigger than you could not eliminate Iran." And then he added the line that has reverberated around the world today: "Be careful not to get eliminated yourself." Be careful not to get eliminated yourself. That is a senior Iranian government official publicly on social media warning the sitting president of the United States to watch his own life. Iran has previously been accused of plotting assassination attempts against Trump. American intelligence agencies have been tracking Iranian threats against Trump for years. Today, one of Iran's most powerful officials put that threat into writing for the entire world to read. The White House has not yet issued a formal response to that specific statement, but the military response was already underway before Larijani even posted those words. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stood at the Pentagon podium today alongside General Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and made an announcement that sent a clear message about where this war is heading. He said in these exact words, "Today will be yet again our most intense day of strikes inside Iran. The most fighters, the most bombers, the most strikes, intelligence more refined and better than ever." He said Iran stands alone and is badly losing on day 10 of Operation Epic Fury. He said the United States is giving President Trump maximum options. And General Kane confirmed that American forces have now struck more than 5,000 targets inside Iran since this war began on February 28th. 5,000 targets in 11 days. That is an average of more than 450 strikes every single day for nearly 2 weeks straight. And Hegseth made the objectives of those 5,000 strikes completely clear. He laid out 3 military goals that the United States is pursuing simultaneously. The first is the complete destruction of Iran's ballistic missile and drone manufacturing capability. Not just the weapons already built, but the entire industrial infrastructure that produces them, so that Iran cannot rebuild its arsenal. The second objective is the destruction of Iran's navy, specifically to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and allow oil tankers to move freely through the world's most critical energy choke point. The third objective is what Hegseth called permanently denying Iran nuclear weapons forever. He looked directly at the cameras and said of Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, he would be wise to heed our president and not pursue nuclear weapons. That is a direct message from the American Secretary of Defense to a man who was appointed supreme leader less than 48 hours ago, telling him his nuclear program is being destroyed as they speak. Now, let us talk about Iran's military response today, because the IRGC is not behaving like a force that is losing. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps announced today that it has rejected completely the American claim that Iran's missile program has been destroyed. And then it backed up that rejection with action. The IRGC launched a new round of strikes using 4 different missile systems: the Farah, the Imad, the Khaibar, and the Qadr. These are medium to long-range ballistic missiles. But the detail that is most alarming in today's IRGC announcement is the warhead weight. The IRGC confirmed it is now deploying projectiles in greater numbers than at any previous point in this war, and that those projectiles are carrying warheads weighing more than 1 ton each. 1 ton. To put that in perspective, a warhead of that size, if it lands in a densely populated urban area, can destroy a city block. These are not warning shots. These are weapons designed to cause maximum structural destruction. The IRGC launched them today at Israeli targets and at American military bases across the Gulf region. The Israeli military confirmed it detected a fresh wave of incoming attacks and ordered civilians to take shelter. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait were all targeted again. And the IRGC made its strategic position absolutely clear today in a statement that should be read by every economist and every energy market analyst in the world. The IRGC spokesperson, Ali Mohammed Naini, said, "We are the ones who will determine the end of this war." And then the IRGC announced something that takes the energy crisis from serious to potentially catastrophic. They said Iran will not allow even 1 single liter of oil to leave the region to the hostile side and its partners until further notice. Not 1 liter. The Strait of Hormuz, through which approximately 20% of the world's entire oil supply normally flows, has already seen traffic drop by 90% since this war began. Now the IRGC is making it official policy that they will block all oil exports from the entire region for as long as American and Israeli strikes continue. And given that Hegseth just announced today is the most intense day of strikes yet, with no indication that the campaign is ending, the IRGC's oil blockade is not a short-term disruption. It is an indefinite siege on the global energy supply. The economic consequences of that siege are already being felt in ways that are going to affect ordinary people all over the world. Saudi Aramco, the largest oil company on the planet and the world's top oil exporter, issued a catastrophic warning today. CEO Amin Nasser said that what is happening at the Strait of Hormuz is, in his exact words, by far the biggest crisis the region's oil and gas industry has ever faced. He said the longer the disruption goes on, the more drastic the consequences for the global economy. Saudi Aramco is already rerouting tankers away from the Strait of Hormuz through its east-west pipeline, which runs from the Gulf Coast to the Red Sea port of Yanbu, and is now operating at its full capacity of 7 million barrels per day. But that pipeline capacity is a fraction of the 21 million barrels per day that normally flow through Hormuz. The gap cannot be filled. Iraq's oil ministry confirmed today that it is exploring alternative export routes because multiple oil shipments are stuck at sea. Bahrain's state oil company, Bapco, has already declared force majeure. Kuwait has cut production. The entire Gulf energy system is being strangled. And yet Trump today sent the world's markets on a wild ride with a series of contradictory statements that revealed either deliberate ambiguity or genuine confusion about how long this war will last and what its objectives actually are. In a phone call with CBS News, Trump said the war is very complete, pretty much, and claimed that Iran's military capabilities had been wiped out. Markets reacted immediately, oil prices fell, stocks rose. People around the world briefly breathed. And then Trump appeared before Republican lawmakers and said something completely different. He said, "We have already won in many ways, but we have not won enough." He said, "We go forward more determined than ever to achieve ultimate victory that will end this long-running danger once and for all." Those two statements cannot both be true at the same time. Either the war is very complete or ultimate victory has not yet been achieved. Either Iran's military is wiped out or the United States needs to go forward more determined than ever. The markets understood immediately what those contradictions meant, and oil prices swung violently as traders tried to figure out which version of Trump was telling the truth. Defense Secretary Hegseth, meanwhile, told 60 Minutes that this is only the beginning. His own defense secretary. On the same day, Trump told CBS the war is very complete. What do these mixed messages actually tell us? They tell us one of two things. Either the Trump administration has not yet made a final decision about the war's end state, and different officials are freelancing their assessments, or the contradictions are deliberate, designed to keep Iran, the markets, and America's allies off balance and unable to plan around a predictable American position. Neither explanation is reassuring, because the world economy, the 6 U.S. troops already dead, the more than 1,200 Iranians confirmed killed, the nearly 500 killed in Lebanon, and the hundreds of thousands of people displaced across the region deserve a clearer answer than conflicting social media posts and press conference statements that contradict each other within hours. Let us talk about what is happening in Lebanon today, because it deserves direct attention, and not just as a footnote to the main Iran story. Israel today told residents of more than 50 villages and towns in southern Lebanon to evacuate immediately, warning of attacks with great force in those areas. Israeli forces are pushing deeper into southern Lebanon with targeted raids south of the Litani River. Human Rights Watch confirmed yesterday that Israel used white phosphorus munitions over residential areas in southern Lebanon, a finding that the rights group says constitutes a violation of international humanitarian law. At least 486 people have been killed in Lebanon since March 2nd, according to the Lebanese Health Ministry. More than 500,000 people have been displaced. An eminent Lebanese priest who refused to leave his congregation was killed when Israeli strikes hit near Christian villages in southern Lebanon. The European Union's foreign policy chief has called on Israel to cease operations in Lebanon. Israel responded by saying it killed the commander of Hezbollah's Nasr unit in an overnight strike. The Lebanon front is not a secondary story. It is a second war running simultaneously with the Iran war, and it is destroying a country that was already devastated before a single bomb fell in this conflict. Now, let us talk about the naval dimension of today's developments, because what is happening in the waters around the Middle East is setting up a confrontation that could escalate rapidly. General Kane confirmed today at the Pentagon briefing that American forces are actively hunting and striking Iranian vessels that are involved in mining the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. submarines and surface ships have been engaging Iranian mine-laying vessels and striking mine storage facilities. Kane said the military is reviewing a range of options to ensure commercial ships can transit safely through the strait. But he confirmed the U.S. has not yet been asked to escort tankers through the passage. Pakistan announced today it is already escorting its own merchant ships through the region because the threat level has become too high to leave them unprotected. More than 1,700 missiles and drones have been fired at the United Arab Emirates alone since this war began, according to the UAE Defense Ministry, making the UAE the single most targeted country in this entire conflict, even more than Israel. The UAE has intercepted the vast majority of those projectiles, but some have landed in densely populated urban areas, killing 4 civilians. France today made its most significant military commitment to this conflict yet. President Macron visited Cyprus and announced that France will deploy 8 frigates, 2 amphibious helicopter carriers, and a full aircraft carrier to the Eastern Mediterranean and Red Sea as a defensive measure. That is an enormous naval force. The Netherlands announced it is sending a frigate to the Mediterranean. The UK, Italy, Greece, Spain, and Germany have all sent defensive assets to Cyprus. When you combine the American naval presence, the Israeli military operations, the French carrier group, and the defensive deployments from multiple European nations, what you are looking at in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Persian Gulf is the largest concentration of Western naval power in a single region since the Second World War. And facing it is Iran's Revolutionary Guard, which today claimed its missile program is not destroyed, that it is deploying heavier warheads than ever, and that it will determine when this war ends. There is one more story today that has received less attention than it deserves, and it involves the internet blackout inside Iran. Cybersecurity watchdog NetBlocks confirmed today that Iran has now spent a third of the entire year 2026 offline. The internet blackout has now reached 240 hours, making it one of the most severe government-imposed nationwide internet shutdowns on record in global history. Internet connectivity inside Iran has dropped to 4% of normal levels. What this means practically is that the Iranian public has almost no ability to communicate with the outside world, to access independent news, to organize, or to document what is happening to them. The regime that is being bombed from outside is simultaneously cutting off the population from information. And in the darkness of that blackout, we do not know what Iranians are saying to each other. We do not know what is happening in the streets beyond what state media chooses to show. We do not know how close to the edge the country's civilian infrastructure actually is. What we do know is this. 11 days into this war, the United States has hit 5,000 targets and is launching its heaviest bombing day yet. Iran's new hardline supreme leader has been in power for less than 48 hours and is already being told by the American Defense Secretary to abandon nuclear weapons. Iran's Revolutionary Guard has threatened to block every drop of oil from leaving the Middle East. A senior Iranian official has publicly warned the American president to be careful about his own life. Saudi Aramco has warned of catastrophic consequences for the global economy. And the world's most important energy waterway is under siege. The question everyone is asking tonight, in every capital, in every trading floor, in every military headquarters around the world, is whether there is any version of this war that ends without either the complete collapse of the Iranian regime or a direct military confrontation between the United States and a country that is being backed by Russia, watched carefully by China, and which today showed it still has the capability to fire 1-ton warhead missiles at American targets. I do not have that answer tonight. Nobody does. But I will be here every single day bringing you the clearest, most complete picture of what is happening. Before I hand things over to you, I have 3 questions, and I want your honest answers in the comments. Question A, Trump said the war is very complete to CBS News and then told Republican lawmakers ultimate victory has not been achieved. Do you think Trump is deliberately sending mixed messages to keep Iran off balance? Or do you think his own administration does not have a clear plan for how this war ends? Question B. Ali Larijani publicly warned Trump to be careful not to be eliminated. Given Iran's history of alleged assassination plots against Trump, do you think this statement is a genuine threat that changes the security calculus of this war, or is it empty political rhetoric designed for domestic Iranian consumption? And question C, the Irgc says it is now firing heavier missiles than at any point in this war and says it will block all oil from leaving the Middle East. The Pentagon says today is the most intense bombing day yet. Do you think this war is heading toward a negotiated end in the coming days? Or are we looking at weeks or months of escalating destruction? Drop your answers below. Share this video because people need to understand what is actually at stake right now. Subscribe if you are not already. Stay safe, stay informed, and I will see you on the next one.